snaps his shot, still looking for his first goal. And that's winged just wide.
And he started to really shoot the puck, Ehlers.
Now this one is played back. Go now Jarvis, he'll get it right back, and he rings the post. Now lead pass for Pasternak. Pasternak will get to it in the Canes zone. He is hammered by Nikishin in the corner, and the Canes will clear. Second big hit this period for Nikishin.
And that's the guy, obviously, you want to finish.
Jankowski going after it. Anderson heads to the bench with 2:55 remaining here in the third. Extra attacker on for Carolina. Nikishin tees it up, and he scores! A Russian rocket from Alexander Nikishin, and it's a 2-1 game in Boston.
Hi, everybody. It's the Canes Corner podcast here live on YouTube, brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, find it there at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy, Hannah, and his crew do a great job. You should check them out. I am Adam Gold. Thank you very much for making us part of your Saturday afternoon, even after the Hurricanes fall in Boston 2-1 in a game that really was there, obviously, entering the third period without a goal. Then Boston takes advantage of certainly one mistake by Carolina, and then maybe a lack of poor judgment as well in the first goal. But it was there. I think it was mostly there early. Carolina just could not find a way to get through Jeremy Swayman. I don't even think he was great, but Carolina had four pretty good looks in the first period that they could not get to go. And we got to the third period. Boston got the first two, and Carolina really just wasn't very good offensively the rest of the way. I know I heard Jordan Stahl say after the game that Boston really sat back. They took their chances. They were mostly trying to counter, kind of hit Carolina when Carolina was being aggressive offensively, and they created plenty of scoring chances. But Freddie Anderson had to be excellent in the first period. And good throughout, but really had to keep Carolina afloat in the first. And again, Carolina had, I think, maybe not as many good scoring chances, but it wasn't an egregious difference. Boston finally got two to go in the third period, and then the Hurricanes were, they really just didn't have a lot of offensive get up and go today. Rod Brindamore tried to switch lines, and we'll talk about whether or not it's something they should do going forward, because I think it is, but we'll get to it. So let's go through a couple of things here. And I did say in a preview sense that we were going to discuss Carolina's goaltending today, maybe even more than we're going to discuss the game. And there wasn't a ton to discuss about the game, but there were a few things I think are worth pointing out. First is, let me just break down the two goals and where it went wrong for Carolina. I thought the first goal, thought Carolina was at the top line on the ice, and it looked to me like they were creating something. There was a pass into the middle that didn't quite get there, ends up in the corner. Alexander Nikishin goes to get it. At this point, Carolina's just got to be better in terms of getting somebody back at the point so you don't give up an odd man chance. I think that might have been Aho's main responsibility, but Nick Ehlers was on the ice, like literally laying on the ice. And I think it was Victor Arvidsson. That line, by the way, with Casey Middlestat was, I think, Boston's best. Arvidsson was kind of like preventing Ehlers from getting up, or maybe Ehlers wasn't trying hard enough to get up. It certainly looked like either one of those two things could have been very true. And I'm not, so I don't know what the, what the real answer is. All I do know is that Ehlers didn't get up until the play was well going the other way, and he's out of the play anyway. Sean Walker did get back and tried to defend the 2-on-1, and sort of did. The pass across from, I guess it was Arvidsson to Middlestat, didn't get through. It went off of Walker's stick, but rather than deflected behind the net, because remember the last time we saw Walker do this, I think he put it in his own goal. rather than go behind the net, Walker, it just kind of sat there, and Casey Middlestead was easily just, got it and just flipped it over Anderson for 1-0. It was about a minute and a half into the third period. 3.5 minutes later, this to me was the mistake. And it's the second time in 3 games that Taylor Hall should know better. Boston is just blocking tons of shots. And if I could get the total number of shot blocks for the game, Boston blocked 21 to Carolina's 11. And I think about half of those came in the third period. So Boston blocks the shot, but Hall's got the puck just inside the blue line, and there are 3 Bruins right there. Like, you don't have anything on the shot. I guess if it gets through, you've got numbers around the goal, but the chances of that shot getting through aren't good. Dump it in the corner. Get it behind the net. But his kind of wild, blind shot is blocked. Victor Arvidsson ends up ahead of the field, and it's 2-0. It's not the game because there's still 15 minutes of hockey left. But now you're down 2-0. Like, that's just got to be a better decision from Taylor Hall. So that was just my view of the 2 goals. I didn't think really Anderson could have done much with either. I know everybody thinks that you should stop everything, but it's fine, whatever. Look, certainly not Anderson's fault, man, but you would have loved a save on that last one. But Arvidsson, good player. That was a good shot. Let's talk about the best thing that we saw today. Again, this is the second game in a row where, like, if not the best thing, one of the 2 best things we saw was Alexander Nikishin. So for a player who was fine for the first 5 or so games, this is now 3 games in a row where he's been excellent. Really, really good. Led him in ice time today, 24-11. He had 4 shots on goal. He had the goal. He had 6 attempts. He had 6 hits. He had 3 big hits in the first period. He got the kid who's in for Elias Lindholm. Let's get his name. Kuznatinov. It was just a great hit behind the net. He got David Pasternak with a big shot. I think he got him twice during the game. But Nikishin was every bit, the impactful player you want him to be. Now, was he on the ice for, I guess he's on the ice for all 3 goals because he scored the third one. Was he on the ice for the first 2 goals? Yeah. Was he deep? If you're going to have the puck in the corner, the pass that you make to the slot, this is maybe a poor decision here. The pass that you make to the slot has to be completed to the slot. It wasn't. And ultimately, that started the play going the other way. And he's out of position. Ehlers is down and out. Aho doesn't get back. Jarvis is well behind the play. And you leave it up to Walker and, I guess, Aho. And while there were 2 people back, it was still an odd man chance, and it ended up being a 2-on-1, and you end up giving up the goal. And Nikishin was on the ice for the blocked shot, but it wasn't. I mean, that to me is a Taylor Hall problem more than anything else. But I thought Nikishin was really good. I thought, to be honest, Carolina's blue line played fairly well today. After the first period, Boston didn't have a lot of chances either. So I think Carolina should be pretty excited about the way some of these young defensemen played. Speaking of young defensemen, real quick before I forget, after the game, Dominic Fensore was sent back to Chicago of the American Hockey League. I don't know if that means that Rod Brindamore feels like he's going to get somebody back on Tuesday when they go to Madison Square Garden. But, I mean, because it could simply be that they're just saving a days of NHL salary with Fensore, although I don't know what that really matters. But they certainly don't need to create room for the salary cap. They got $10 million in cap space. So Fensore was sent back. So I'm just going to guess that they believe they're going to get somebody back for the game Tuesday. And I do think it's worth pointing this out. This is the third. Well, I mean, Carolina ultimately, because of the way the third period was played, Carolina's shot attempt total is bigger. Their shots on goal total is bigger than Boston's. But it's really like the fifth time in a row where the Hurricanes haven't dominated play territorially. And I talked about this with Rod before the game, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Carolina doesn't have their core of defensemen. They've been playing since the Philly game, the 11th of October. They've been playing without Slavin. Keandre Miller left like 2 games later or 3 games later. Gostisbehere left, came back, left again. So it just hasn't been their normal blue line. And, puck possession and all of that, it starts with keeping the puck. And I think the one thing that Carolina's blue line has not done well is get the puck out of their own end and transition into the offensive part of the rink. And that's what Miller will do well. That's what Slavin will do well. That's what Gostisbehere will do well. And it's obviously not what some of these other guys do well. Have they defended well? Yeah, they've defended well. But they have not transitioned that into offensive puck possession and playing Hurricanes hockey. We haven't seen a full game of Hurricanes hockey since, it's probably the Devils game. Look, they've played some in stretches. They played fairly well, but it's been a minute. Anyway, I think things will look a lot better once Carolina's has some of their main guys on the blue line back. But it certainly is encouraging when Alexander Nikishin is playing the way he's playing, and now maybe Rod's got to think about what do we do with combinations and ice time when everybody's healthy. Though that would be a great problem to have. We'll get to the goaltending thing in just a second. Andrei Svechnikov was good again, really good again. Nice to see. This is 3 games in a row. Before I go and declare Andrei back, I want to see it for an extended period of time, not 3 games. So this has got to be like 23 games. But we are starting to see the Andrei Svechnikov that makes a positive impact in the game. And I thought he was good today. Seth Jarvis, man, you roll back the clock less than 24 hours. We were thinking, we might not have Seth for a couple of months. And as it turns out, he comes back and plays the next game. Just absolutely crazy. He's a great player, and he's tough as all get out. And I said this before, Carolina's got indispensable players that they don't have a replacement for. Stahl, for reasons that go beyond what he does on the ice, Stahl, Martinook, Slavin, right? They're playing without him. Aho and Jarvis, that's it. If any of those guys are out for extended periods of time, they feel it. And they're feeling it without Slavin. Can you win without Slavin? Yeah. Easier to win without Slavin than it would be without Aho or Jarvis. And maybe even Stahl and Martinook. This is not shade on Slavin, but yes, the penalty kill, but Carolina's got a lot of good penalty killers. He doesn't do power play time. Is he super vital? Yeah. It makes it easier for Carolina to win. But when you're missing Jarvis, who plays nearly 20 minutes a game, and you play in all situations, and he and Aho are amazing penalty killers, and they create offense there. He's part of the power play, jokes aside about the power play. And he's just an elite defensive player to begin with. If you're missing Jarvis, who goes there? Bradley Nadeau can't fill that. You lose too much with Seth Jarvis if he's not in. Thankfully, he was in. He played well today. I thought he played well. Just for playing, he gets my player of the game, but I thought he played well. And I think for the most part, that top line was good. Even though I think the top line being good today was really mostly about 20 and 24. And we'll get to Nick Ehlers here. It's not good yet. We've seen spurts of good Nick Ehlers, but we have not seen, and we saw spurts of it today. But man, there are puck decisions that I just don't get. And it seems to me that Nick is just trying so hard to be a plus that he's trying to do too much and he gets himself in trouble. There are passes, like he cleared Carolina's offensive zone today. Probably shouldn't be trying to do that. And I'm not suggesting he was trying to do that, but it looked to me like he was passing to an area where there were no players. And that's, in the offensive zone, not what you want. It starts a break the other way. Now, it didn't in this case, but Carolina was at that point pretty lucky that Boston was playing in more of a defensive style, so they weren't pushing up. But Ehlers we were 11 games in. And it was, it wasn't a big deal when the Hurricanes had played 4 games and he hadn't scored, but now we're at 11. And we have not seen, not only we haven't seen goals from Nick Ehlers, we haven't seen anybody, except maybe once, like rob Nick Ehlers. Like Seth Jarvis, Jackson Blake, Sebastian Aho, these guys get robbed routinely. I can't remember Nick getting robbed. Maybe once. So we need more from him, man, because it's not been great so far. Here's one thing that concerns me, but today was a non-power play day, apparently, for the referees, and maybe no penalties were committed, although I would argue that I saw a cross-check in the middle of the offensive zone. It wasn't particularly vicious, but it was a cross-check, and it was definitely in the middle of the back. Forget exactly who it was against. Might have been Ehlers, to be honest. And the puck wasn't anywhere near it, and they just went the other way. Carolina's drawn 3 power plays in the last 3 games, total. 3 in the last 3 games. Today's power play, first unit didn't do much. Second unit did get a couple of really good looks late in the power play, but they didn't score. There were no power play goals today. Both teams were 0 for 1. All right, now to the larger discussion. And the larger discussion to me is about goaltending. Carolina's getting good goaltending. That's not the issue. The issue is, can you have too many of them? And the answer to that is, yeah, you can. So Freddie Anderson, right now, healthy. Pyotr Kochetkov, just back off the injured list, conditioning stint. I believe you get 14 days, and then you have to come back to the NHL. Brandon Bussey, he's been great. .916 save percentage, 3-1. The one loss, 2 of the 3 goals went in off Carolina Hurricane sticks. I mean, he's been excellent. And everybody has an opinion on how this is supposed to work, how it should work, who should go. So a couple of things I think are worth pointing out. And then we'll get into how you use 3 goalies. Or how you keep 3 goalies, because I'm not sure you use 3 goalies, but how you keep 3 goalies. If you've been on my timeline, if you have seen the back and forth, you know that there are many people who think, trade Kochetkov, waive him, send him to the minors, blah, blah. Neither Pyotr Kochetkov nor Brandon Bussey are going to clear waivers. Everybody has seen the high ceiling of Kochetkov. The Hurricanes have seen the high ceiling of Kochetkov. If you could get the bad goals out of his system, if you could get his concentration level, which I think leads to the bad goals a lot of the time, if you could get his concentration level up sharper, then I think Carolina has a potential number 1 goalie. Those are big ifs, And for that reason, and the fact that he is only worth $2 million on a contract, I believe, for, is it 2 more years? I don't think there's a chance that he wouldn't get claimed if you tried to put him through waivers. So you're not doing that. And the way Brandon Bussi has played, you can't waive him. He will get claimed. So if you wanted to send him to Chicago, you just can't. Now, maybe Kochetkov comes back and Bussi sits for a while, and then you send him on a conditioning stint. It would be a lot shorter if he is not coming off an injury, and right now he's not. Kochetkov is, which gives you a little bit more time. But they're not putting him on waivers. Now, Tripp had told me earlier that his understanding, and I probably should be able to find this, but I didn't look. But his understanding is that if you've played a certain number of NHL games and you go back through waivers, the team that had you initially, in this case the Florida Panthers, if they claimed you off waivers, you would have to stay in the NHL. So he has to play 6 more games, according to Tripp. If you play 10, then the other team would have to keep you on the NHL roster. And with the Panthers having not only Sergei Bobrovsky, but who is it? Is it Vitek Vanacek? They've got they've got the old guy from Columbus, forgetting his name. Daniil Tarasov. So they've got Tarasov. They don't need another goalie. But that doesn't mean they wouldn't take him and try to get him to the minor leagues. So I totally understand that. Florida signed him in the offseason for a reason. I know Carolina had some interest in him as well. So at some point, maybe you sign him to a contract and it has to be after January 1st, so nothing would happen before then. You sign him to a contract, and maybe it's a 2-year extension. The first year is a 2-way deal. The second year is an NHL deal. So he's got to stay. Or maybe you just sign him to an NHL contract, since you're probably going to have a ton of cap space anyway, and now you've got another goalie. And so for the people who want Kochetkov traded, or for the people who said, well, Bussi's been better than Freddie, just make him the number 1. And I've seen it all. I've seen all of the comments about all of these things, and in some ways, they're entertaining. It's really hard to have 3 goalies play. It's not impossible. Depends on the mindset of the 3 goalies. But Freddie Andersen is not going to be your backup goalie. And if he's playing 40% of the games, if you're using all 3 goalies, if he's playing 40% of the games, he's essentially acting like a backup, backing up 2 different, other goalies if you're going to try to, make it even. You don't make it even. Freddie's your guy. Freddie will eventually, I'm sure, need time for whatever reason. Freddie gets injured, although he had surgery last year, and a lot of people think that those things that were corrected might be in much better shape now. Who knows? We know what Freddie's history is. So the Hurricanes are going to keep all 3. They should keep all 3. And I want to remind people the name Spencer Martin. We don't have to go very far to find an example of a goaltender who got behind Carolina's blue line, even though this one is compromised physically, and played well, and parlayed that into a contract. Spencer Martin was that guy. Remember the Spencer Martin experience? They got him off waivers from Columbus. They needed another goaltender who had at least sniffed the NHL. He came to Carolina. They went on the parents' trip. It was the mom's trip. They go to Boston. He stands on his head and they win the hockey game. It became Spencer Martin's first 4 games as a Hurricane. He won 3. He lost 1 in overtime, and he had a .921 save percentage. At that point, we were saying, not we, royal we, oh, man, Martin is great. It's better than Kochetkov. When Freddie comes back, what was Spencer Martin last year? Goaltending is fleeting. And even the guys who are good need changes of scenery. We see it all the time. All the time. You don't have to go back too far to find that Ville Husso was a good goalie. I'm not even sure where Ville Husso is. He's in the minor leagues right now, I believe. He was good for St. Louis, I believe. Or maybe it was Detroit. I don't know. It just comes and goes. And I am not here to tell you that Brandon Bussi, in starts 7 through 11 for the Hurricanes, I'm not here to tell you that he's not going to be good. Brandon Bussi might be that late bloomer, 27-year-old, just finds it. It all comes into focus, and he plays great. And he's great this year, and he's great next year, and he's great the year after that. The odds of that are about, 5%. So here's what I look at. I look at a guy that is absolutely helping you now, and at the very least should be a competent, swing third goaltender. And he has played well enough right now to make you believe that he is better than Pyotr Kochetkov. And he might be. But we've only seen 4 games. That's it. You'd need to see a lot more than 4 games to really believe that Brandon Bussi is the answer to any question. And again, he's been dynamite. I would say that in the first game, he did allow 2 soft goals in his first 2 games. The game against San Jose, he allowed a soft goal. And then, was it in LA? I think it was in Los Angeles. He allowed a soft goal there as well. I think it was LA. So, before we go and crown Brandon Bussi Carolina's next goaltender, I just think we need to relax and understand that it can go. Because he's not one of those guys. He's not a star. He's not a starter. But he looks like he can play. And right now, that's good for Carolina. You've got Freddie. That's fine. He's got to play while he's healthy. He's got to play, let's just say, 3 out of every 5. And you're not taking those other 2 and splitting them between Kochetkov and Brandon Bussi because you're not going to get the better out of either of them. So you can really only play 2 goalies. And Tripp was talking about how do you practice with 2 goalies? Can't do that. Or 3 goalies. It's hard. I mean, maybe Freddie just doesn't practice all that much, but he needs to practice. He needs to be on the ice with his teammates. So it's hard to get 3 goalies work. So it is a challenging thing. Kochetkov in the minors buys them 2 weeks. At some point, if what Tripp said about the rules in terms of if Florida claims him, if Tripp comes back and says this is it's too hard for Florida to get him to keep him in the NHL, and that's what they have to do, then maybe Carolina can finish it off. Can keep him and send him to Chicago so he's in the AHL and he can play on a steady basis. And then if you need him, you just go get him. But for right now, they're going to keep 3 goalies. They're not going to get rid of one because they can't. They don't have another goalie in the system that can play in the NHL, and you know from the history of Anderson and Kochetkov that neither of them are going to stay healthy for the rest of the season. We've already seen Kochetkov be unhealthy for the first 10 games. And after that, we can probably schedule Freddie Anderson's time on the injured list. I kid, but that's been Freddie's history, is basically his whole career. So I don't think anything's going to happen with Carolina's goaltending. They're just going to have to figure out a way to make it work. And if Kochetkov comes back from his conditioning stint and starts playing on a steady basis, then maybe you can send Bussy to the minor leagues to play a couple of games just to keep him fresh. But then you got to get him right back here. And fortunately, the Hurricanes have a whole bunch of cap space to carry 3 goalies. They can carry 8 goalies, honestly, with all the cap space. But that would be a roster problem. All right, we got to go. This has been the Canes Corner podcast. I am Adam Gold. Canes fall 2-1. Just didn't generate enough offense in Boston to beat the Bruins. We'll see if they can do that in New York. Rangers have not been good on home ice, if that gives you any, positive vibes at all. Until Tuesday after the Canes and the Rangers, I'm Adam Gold. This has been the Canes Corner podcast, brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hannon and his crew do a great job. You should check them out, and I will see you Tuesday.